Today we are finally back with some more building tips, and today we're going to be taking a look at roofs. Since so many of you really enjoyed the house building tips video, but you really want to see a more in-depth guide on roofs itself, so today we're going to be starting with some very basics on ways that you can improve the look of your roofs. We're also going to be taking a look at different designs of roofs, and then finally I'm going to show you how you can implement these roof designs on your own builds as well. So with that being said, let's get building. Okay, let's start with the basics. So one of the first things you want to do is make sure that you have a little lip around the edge for your build. This creates a lot more depth to the build and generally just makes the roof stand out a bit more. Now, as you can see over to the side here, we have got some upside down stairs underneath here to make this point look a little bit more thicker. And on the side here, we've just overhung by one block with the roof, and that just creates a nice little bit of depth and just makes the roof feel much more better in general. The best way to improve any roof is by simply improving the build shape in general. As you can see, just adding in this single section to the side here really opens up our roof. It gives us a bunch more room to work with and generally makes the roof look much nicer. Now, this is only one section, but adding in multiple sections to your build can really add so much more detail to the roof in general. So when it comes to building roofs, you really want to focus on your foundation before you start working on the roof. A good foundation will always result in a much better roof in general. Another key thing to remember here is varying up your roof heights. Now, while some roofs can work nice when they're in line together, it's nice to have a variation here and there on the build. So just by lowering this side roof by 2 blocks, you can see the difference it creates to the roof. It creates much more of an interesting look and just generally has a nicer feel to it. It doesn't feel like it's all flat or stuck at the same position, and it creates multiple levels to the eye line for the roof. As you can see, we've got the sight line for the top point here, and we've got a second line here that's a different sort of level, which just creates a nicer point of view. Detailing the actual roof itself can be very simple. Adding in a simple little window like this is an easy way to create a nice little point on the roof and adds a bunch of detail. It makes the roof feel less flat and gives you a nice little view from the inside of your build as well. Now, we can also do this in several different ways. We can create windows higher up to the peak of the roof using slabs, something along these lines, or we can actually create them built into the actual roof line itself. As you can see, this style here creates more of our section to the wall below and it extends the house, but this is across a flat wall, so this makes a nice extension, gives you a little bit of an indentation for the roof, and overall just adds a nice sort of interest to the roof itself. Here's a few examples how you can extend on the roof to make it look a little bit nicer. We can simply start by just adding in a peak like this on the side of the build, and then just extend it back into the roof. This creates almost like a secondary peak for the roof, but more of an extension because it's coming out to a flat wall. Now, this is just using stairs. You can create all sorts of shapes. As you can see here, we've got 2 stairs going up, a single block here, and then 2 stairs coming up to round off the top point here, creating a little bit more of an interesting shape to the peak. And there are many ways that we can do this. We can also add in a section like this that feels a bit more like a dormer window, something that sits actually on the build itself. As you can see, the wall is extended, but it's extending the roof up in general. So we have a little peak here with our stairs and a little section of wall with a window. This is great for adding in areas in the upper part of the house and gives you a little bit more room in the roof itself if you was to create a loft room or something along those lines. You can always add windows in many sort of shapes and sizes. This is simply using slabs to create a little peak. We could also use stairs if we want to create a peak sort of like this. And this is joined into the actual roof itself. So we still got the stairs coming across for the roof line here, but we are extending from the wall down below. If we move over here, this is exactly the same. The only difference is we are sloping slabs downwards to the front of the roof to create a little bit of a different shape. We can always blend them in a little bit better as well by using different colors. As you can see at the back here, this one is using stripped dark oak logs, which blend in nice with the spruce roof. This way it feels a little bit more fitting with the roof rather than a section of the wall. We can also make them a bit smaller. As you can see, we can do it in 1 block or 2 block. You can make it much wider or thinner as you like. But overall, these are just a few little ideas that you can use to add to your roof just to create a little bit more detail. Another nice addition to the roof is creating little edges underneath. So as you can see down here, this is what I do fairly often, and this is using fence gates. I place them on every other block and then open them up to create almost like a little sort of beams that are sticking out to support the edge of the roof. We can also do things like place in our trapdoors in between to create a little bit of depth. We can also remove these and have it just overhanging like so. Now this one often gets overlooked, but just simply adding a chimney to the build is a great little feature for the roof. You can bring it into the edge of the build and make it blend in with part of the roof, and it really does add a nice detail to the actual roof itself. Now, it's not necessarily a roof sort of extension as such, but because we bring it up and it extends into the edge of the roof, it creates detail in the roof. Adding multiple chimneys on one build is also a pretty effective way of adding detail to the roof. As you can see, it allows us to have detail sort of to a few different points now. So it just makes the build kind of stand out a little bit more on the roof and just gives that little bit of detail in any areas that kind of feel a little bit flat. If you feel the top of the roof is looking a little bit flat, you can always add in a little bit of detail with some stairs. So rather than having slabs going all the way across through the center, you could use stairs just like this to create a nice little point all the way across the top. You can also alternate full blocks and slabs to create a kind of effect a bit like this. Again, it's not a huge detail, but it definitely adds a little something to the top of the roof there if you feel like it's looking a little bit plain. Now let's take a look at a build with some of these ideas implemented and talk a bit about why this roof works. So first of all, we've got our main roof, we've got a roof to each side of the build, and this one that sticks out at the front. Now this works really well because each roof is set at a different height. The one at the front here is 1 block lower, the one to this side is 2 blocks lower, and the one to this side is 4 blocks lower. And this creates multiple sort of levels to the roof, creating different sight lines, which makes the roof feel more detailed in general. We've also gone ahead and textured the roof as well. We have our cobbled deep slate and our deep slate bricks as well. And this adds a nice bit of texture to create a bit more realism. We've also added in a border. As you can see, we've run it all the way around the edge and across the top of each center point of the roof. And this just makes the roof generally feel more finished. Other than that, we haven't really done much. We've kept the front here pretty simple because I feel like the roof points here, they make the details. We don't need to overdo it. If we overdo it and start adding windows and stuff to the front of the roof, it's going to feel too much. It's going to feel too crowded and it's not going to look right. If we head around to the back of the build, you can see here we have one long straight length of the roof. So here I decided to add some details. We've got a chimney and a little window, and that is about as much as we need to do to keep the roof looking nice. Had we crammed in anything else here or added too many windows or more chimneys and stuff, it would have started to feel very cramped and out of place. So while you're building your roofs, just try to make sure that you're adding details but without overdoing it, because overdoing it is not going to be beneficial and it's going to look much nicer with a clean look to it rather than an over cramped or packed feeling to it. Okay, let's take a look at how we can put some of these roofs into place. So we're going to work on the main peaks of these roofs and show you how each one of them are done. So first of all, we've got your typical sort of A-frame with stairs and upside down stairs. This is pretty simple. Just simply running your stairs all the way up to a center point. So we bring it up all the way. And then once we get to the center, we will place an upside down stair facing out. We repeat the pattern on the opposite side. Now this is what you'll see on most roofs, but these are generally a very simple roof, but these are one of my favorite roofs to kind of do because they're probably the most realistic looking roof out of the lot. And then on the top we can place a stair with an upside down stair like this. And then of course if you've got your house, you'd want to make sure that you have your back all filled in as well. And generally these roofs can look good in most situations. Now, if you're making something a little bit more fantasy, then I would work on something with a bit more of a higher peak. But overall, this is a great place to start. Next, let's take a look at a typical kind of medieval style roof. So these generally go a little bit higher. So we'll start by placing our normal stairs at each side with an upside down stair behind it, just like so. Now here you can go ahead and start raising it a little bit higher. So we'll put in a full block, a stair, and then an upside down stair. And we do that on both sides. And then we just basically repeat that pattern until we reach the center point of the roof. Once you're at that center point, it's just copying that same pattern. So you'll place a stair, a full block, and then from behind you can place a stair and then an upside down stair at the very front. If you want to get a little bit fancy at the very front here, you can go ahead and place 2 stairs like this and then one underneath. We can then break this one, place a stair upside down and then a normal one, and then get rid of those 2, and it gives us a nice little curl on the front. So if you're looking for something a little bit fantasy looking, this works really well. And then of course don't forget to go ahead and fill in the backing of your roof as well. You can make this look much more detailed, but this is just for an example. And there we go, that's a pretty nice design. Sometimes the roofs that are lower down can look pretty nice. So let's go ahead and from the top of our wall here, we're going to bring a slab out and over. So we're 1 above the block there. Bring it out by 1. And then we're just going to step our slabs up until we reach the center point of the build. And then we're going to repeat the same thing on this side here. These are great for sort of lower roofs where you don't want something to be so high, or you're looking for a variation from your other builds. Because if you have all of your roofs looking at the same height, you want to change some up here and there to create different height levels to create a little bit more interest to your builds. And there you go. It's nice and simple and easy to implement. Now, not both sides of your build have to have a roof that lines up at the same point. For instance, we could use this example here. So we've got a wall, we've got a little finishing edge here, and a section that sticks out to the side. So for here, we could go ahead and bring out our section, and we can bring our slabs all the way up till we reach the top point of the roof at this point. And then at this point here, we could go ahead and we could put in some full blocks across the top of the roof here. And then we could go ahead, maybe we'll put a slab at the very front and then upside down stairs across here so that we cover this edge. Just like so. And that looks pretty good. And then to finish it off, all we need to do is to repeat the pattern over this side here. So we could go from here, let's step it down all the way, and there we go. That makes a really nice looking roof, and we can do this at all different heights. You know, it hasn't got to be just a few blocks apart. You could have this roof really high, this one really low, and you can combine it so you can have multiple roofs like this on a build. If you have sections that come out towards the front, you could create more parts like this. So you can create some really interesting looking builds with roofs that sort of don't align to the same point. Next up, we're going to try something with a bit of a rounded edge. So we're going to start at the side with our stairs and then have our upside down stairs behind it. This will give us a good starting point. And we want to use the stairs again here to create still a fairly lowish roof, but with enough of a good curve to start with. If we bring the slabs in too quickly, we're not going to get a too rounded edge. Now we're going to bring in our slabs at each side, and then we're going to go with a full block. Then we're going to place a slab with one on top and bring that across and join it up. And that gives us a very nice sort of smooth arch here, which looks really nice. And if we go ahead and just fill in the edge here, it will just nicely complete the edge of that build. And that really is a nice shaped build. Perfect for barns and small little builds like that, maybe a stable or something along those lines. Next up, we're going to try something a little bit different. So this is great for ideas like churches, castles, or kind of buildings that just want to stand out to be a bit different. So on the edge here, we're going to fill the wall as if we was making a normal kind of sort of roof with the stairs. But on the center point at the top, we're going to place 2, just like this. To the side of the build, we're just going to go up ahead, place an upside down stair there, and then a slab in the gap. Repeat that on the opposite side, so you want 2 stairs, and then in your gaps you want to place your slabs. Now on the blocks here, you just want to place an upside down stair against all of these, leading up to that center point, and then the same again on the opposite side. This creates a really nice looking roof point, and then just to make sure at the back to finish it off, you add your stairs from here, and you just bring them across until you reach your center point. So all the way up, just like so, and then in the center point you can just add your slabs and then repeat your stairs on this side. And that creates a really nice looking little roof. You can also go ahead and finish it up if you wanted with some little details, something like this. Maybe one on the very top here, and then you could put something like this on the top of each one of them. And it just creates an interesting look to the roof, something a little bit different from your normal buildings. Now you can also expand on this with the idea of your typical medieval roof, which goes up a little bit higher. So let's bring these ones up here by 2, all the way, leaving the one at the side there. Then we'll bring these ones up by 2, again leaving the next one on the edge, then 2 again, and then finally 2 on the very top like so. Again, we're going to use exactly the same pattern, so make sure you place an upside down stair on the corner and then one on every other block, and then same with your slabs in the gaps. Stairs from the corner across, and then slabs in the gap. Now we will place a stair here, here, and here. Okay, so just on top of each block that goes down the roof. All the way down like so. Now, again, this would be exactly the same kind of pattern. So what we would do is we would add our stairs here. We'd place a full block, stair, full block, stair, full blocks, and then stairs. And then at the very top, we'll go ahead and put some slabs. And then, of course, on the opposite side, you simply will repeat the process. So just do exactly the same thing. And again, just like before, you could go ahead and use some of these for some decoration. And overall, this is a really cool build. I like using this for churches or areas of castles and so forth. And it looks great when you do it in stonework as well. Overall, a pretty cool design. Next up, we're going to go with something that is like a typical kind of barn roof. Now, this is going to be a pretty small version, but it can be expanded on. So you place your stairs and upside down stairs at each side. Just like so. We're then going to place a full block on top of the upside down stair with a stair and upside down stair again behind it. We're also going to extend it up again, so one more full block. Then we're going to place our stair and upside down stairs, and then we're going to place slabs on top of those and then connect it with 3 full blocks in the center. And this creates a really nice kind of barn look. It can be used on many different buildings, but I personally find that the barns and kind of stables and things like that are where this roof works best. Just like so. Next up, we're going to make one that is a typical kind of fantasy roof with a bit of a curving slope to a point. So we're going to start with our slabs, and we're going to go, in fact, we're going to go from here, 1 and then 2, okay? And then we're going to bring it out, bring it 1 across, 1 over, 1 across, 1 over, 1 across. Now, we're over by 4 blocks, but as you can see, this block here sits at the same level as a 4 block, and that's where we want to be landing, okay? So again, 1, 2 from the top point, bring it over until we're at 1 4 block height above. Place a stair, then an upside down stair on top of those. Now you can see we're getting a little bit of a curve there. So now we want to bring it up a bit steeper, so we're going to place a full block, and then we're going to place a stair on top, upside down stairs behind. Again, we're going to go full block on top with 2 stairs on top, upside down stair in the center, and then at the very top here, we're going to place a full block, stair, and then an upside down stair like so. And it's kind of a mix between a fantasy and also a bit like a Japanese style roof, because a lot of those Japanese roofs, they have those big kind of curves in their roofs, something kind of along these lines. And I think this looks really cool. This is really nice for like swamp style builds if you're going for the very fantasy style, but also good on any form of Japanese or Oriental style build. Another interesting take is very similar again to the typical medieval roof with the high point. So if we start by placing stairs at each side, just like this, and then here we're going to go a bit different. We're going to do 2 lots of stairs. So 2 lots of stairs, and then we're going to go to a single full block, and then our stair with our upside down stair, full block, and then again we'll go with our stairs, full block, stairs, and we're going to cap it off just like we have done with the other ones with a full block, stair, and an upside down stair. Now this looks very similar, but what we're going to do here is on top of each stair, we're going to add a slab. And while it's a very similar style roof, it does give a much different sort of look to it. As you can see, it gives a much thicker looking border and creates a little bit more of a kind of gothic kind of roughness to it. Maybe even a bit more fantasy, like you could use this maybe on an elven build, you know. I think this would probably work really well on an elven roof. I think it's got that kind of style to it. And if you wanted to, at your sides, you could always go ahead and bring a stair down here to make it look like it has a bit of a stronger support. And probably look a little bit more fitting with everything you've got in place. Now this overall I think is a really cool design, and I wouldn't really use this that often with my style of builds, but nonetheless it is still a very nice sort of style to build with. Next up, let's quickly talk about how I do diagonal builds. So my diagonal builds usually sit between anything from a 2-block diagonal to a 3, 4 or 5-block diagonal. So I'd never really use the diagonals that are single blocks like this in a 45-degree angle. Personally, I just don't like the way that they look. It's not my sort of thing. I much prefer having smaller angles to be able to work with, rather than such a sharp 45-degree. I just don't feel that it tends to work with most builds. So for these builds, what I like to do is place stairs across the bottom like this, and we'll overhang at this side. So imagine this is just your typical stair roof. First of all, you put your upside down stairs across here, you bring your stairs over and up, and then you have one stair like this, and you repeat the pattern down opposite side. Now the only difference is that when we get to the corners, we basically just turn a stair, turn the stair, turn the stair. And then we just literally bring our normal stairs all the way across, overhang on this side, repeat the same roof design up here, all the way across to the back of the build. And again, over here will be the same as the opposite side. Now keep in mind that while we are doing this and we bring this over, we have 4 in a straight line here, because the corner, there's no corner on that first section. This section will reverse to this side on the opposite side. Okay, so we have the 4 here now, but every other section is going to have one curved stair. And all you literally do is repeat that all the way up to the top. So again here, we've got our curved stair, so we'll put a curved stair here, then the next one would be here, and the next one would be here, okay? And then that would literally just connect over, over, and over. The same here. You just literally bring the stairs up at that same point and then bring them over. Now this would be the same even if these walls were 3, 4, 5, 2 blocks long, whatever. Wherever that little corner is, where the 2 sort of diagonals are, you would turn your stair and then turn one back. This basically covers up the blocks behind. And if you're doing a section like the roof here, if you had a straight one, you'd end up with a hole, which you don't want. So this just covers the hole in place and makes the roof just feel like it fits like it's supposed to. So you just basically repeat that process all the way across. Then you go ahead over here with your straight ones, which will just continue your process all the way across. And there you go. At the very top here, you just go ahead, you'd fill your gaps like this, and then just continue your slabs across those 4 blocks. And it's as simple as that. You literally repeat the same pattern on the opposite side, and that is how you create a diagonal roof. It's very simple, and it really is, it's a lot easier than it seems. A lot of roofs that you see, they look more complicated than they actually are to put in place. Okay, let's take a quick look at tower roofs. So tower roofs are pretty simple. As you can see here, we've got a 5x5 tower. I've just got the corners cut out so that each face is 3 blocks wide. On the very top in the center, we've got 1 block that continues from our walls. So what we're going to do is on the 2 corners, just place a full block for the roof block that you're going to be using. Then you're going to be using slabs on the bottom half of those, and then a slab on the top half of that one in the center. And you want to repeat that all the way around. This is just for the kind of foundation point of the roof. This gives us a nice point to kind of work from. Now on top where we've got those wall blocks, we're going to go ahead and place in a full block. Then we're going to place stairs at each side of them, and then 1 in the center like this. And we're going to do that all the way around, making sure that they all match up and those middle ones point towards the center, just like this. In the corners where the stairs are, just go ahead and fill those up with 2 of your 4 blocks. And then we're going to go into the gaps like this, and we're going to place 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. Place 2 stairs from one side and 2 stairs from the other side. Then simply raise these blocks up by 1 more. Place 1 in the center, and then 1, 2, 3 on top. And then stairs on top of these 4 blocks here. And at the very top, you could go ahead, place a wall block, and then some fence posts. Now, of course, this doesn't really match in color. You could use granite and then spruce. But just for this example, this is how your roof would kind of look. And it gives you a nice kind of point. Now, you can always lower and raise some of these sections as you please to create a higher or lower peak on the actual tower itself. But this is basically what I would do with my towers. And starting from the points that I do allows me to actually place some fence posts or some chains with some lanterns or something underneath the corners like so. So it just allows you to get that little bit of extra detail if you wanted to. Anyway, that just about does it for today. So stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.